Hi, my name is Ruth Kleast. I'm a licensed clinical social worker here at Neighborhood Healthcare at our El Cajon site. Here at El Cajon, a large portion of our patient population are immigrant refugees, primarily from Iraq. So today what I'd like to talk about with you are some tips and tricks that I have learned along the way as I have transitioned to working with these patients in the telehealth process. Usually, you like to go down to the waiting room, greet the patient with a handshake. To replace that, of course, now I'm using my voice to do that, so I really make it a point at the start of the call to emphasize the warmth and friendliness and enthusiasm with my voice, specifically letting them know that I'm looking forward to the opportunity to talk to them that day. And in my mind, I think of creating it like a verbal handshake. So here are some considerations when you're working with interpreters in the telehealth process. First of all, you want to make sure that the interpreter speaks the same dialect as your patient. And what that means is there are multiple dialects within a single language. So for example, Arabic from Egypt is significantly different from Arabic in Iraq. So it's important after you've started the appointment that you take a moment and check in with the patient and make sure that they feel that the interpreter has understood them clearly. If you're doing a video telehealth appointment with an interpreter and the patient, just as you would when you're live and in person, you want to make sure to maintain a visual contact with the patient while the interpreter is speaking and while the patient is speaking to the interpreter. Another really important consideration is to check with both your interpreter and the patient that they don't know each other from the community. This does come up fairly often, so it's really important right away to check in with both the patient and the interpreter. Another aspect to have in mind when working with our refugee patients is to recognize that they may have a lot of feelings of as if they were a nobody. And so as a clinician, you want to work with them to reframe that for them as well as to convey that you see them as a unique and valued individual. So a technique to do this will involve you asking a lot of detail about their roles in their home country. So whether that pertains to homemaking and childcare or work outside of the home in a skilled profession or in labor or in a government position, you want to spend a lot of time with them, asking them to share with you the skills that went into it. And as a clinician, you really want to highlight for them the value that the work that they performed had on not only the greater society, but also, of course, their families. Additionally, you might find it challenging to convey in the telehealth process your respect for them as a unique individual. You want to not only ask the patient, of course, which country they're from, but really asking them to talk about the specific geographic region as well as the various cultural affiliations and groups from their country that they belong to. If you don't ask these things, the patient is very likely to think that you lumped them together with everybody else from their home country, and therefore they may feel alienated. Finally, you want to make sure that your refugee patients are alone and have privacy for the purpose of the appointment, and do so at the beginning of the appointment. This is because you're likely going to be working with the patient to address family conflicts, familial role strain, and of course they're not going to be comfortable to bring up those topics if other family members are able to hear them in the appointment. Knowing that our refugee patients have already experienced a tremendous amount of loss as well as separation from their family members, creating a good bond in the therapy process is extremely important. One of the ways to create a trusting bond with your patient is to remind yourself of that impact that chronic separation from their family has on the patient. What this means is, for example, grandparents might never get to meet their newly born grandchildren. When our patients lose a family member to death, the patient isn't able to be there for end-of-life decisions, funeral ceremonies, or they may not have even gotten to see that person in a very long time. A way to help a patient manage this ambiguous and chronic grief and loss is to ask them in each and every appointment to update you on their individual family members' health and well-being, life updates of those family members that are living abroad. And again, to really do this in each appointment, it really helps the patient feel that you are bringing the family member to life in their present life, and this is a really key way to help them manage that grief and loss. Finally, with the use of telehealth, I've noticed that our refugee patients really like the impact that giving them the call or initiating the call to do a video call really seems to help them feel cared for and thought of. The fact that you as the clinician are the one initiating the outreach to the patient rather than them coming in to see you, it turns out that this has really had the impact of helping the patient to feel that someone's thinking about them, someone's caring about them, and that alone has really helped boost their resilience and their ability to cope with stress.